Turn on your microphone, turn on your video if you like. This session is being recorded for your viewing pleasure and reflective powers afterwards, or if you would like to share it. We currently have 105 users. We are closely monitoring our server space. Josiah, give a little wave there.
Hello.
Hello, Colleen.
Good. I'm here. I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Yes, you are here. That's right. So, as I was saying, thank you, Colleen, for turning on your microphone. You see everyone. It is as
Yeah.
easy as that. Just a couple of notes. I was mentioning Josiah. He has actually made this platform and he is very modest. So, feel free to give him a shout out by saying, Yay, Josiah, or any other accolades that you would like to share. We are very cognizant of the vulnerabilities that this experience may have, as we have a staggering over 400 registrants. We should probably know that number off the top of our head, but this morning we checked and it was over 400 for this session as we see the users climb here. So this is exciting. Um, this is made possible by Josiah's work on creating this platform experience for us this morning that allows us to do some very brilliant things like sharing this mug of coffee that looks much warmer than my mug of coffee. I didn't have a chance to get a refill. So I'm gonna take a breath. It is 10:30, but maybe we'll wait for a couple more minutes as the users rise. Josiah, just since I have your attention here, the YouTube link, regrettably, is wrong in the event that this all fails. But it is streaming at the YouTube link that I'm going to send to you. I'm not sure if you can update that on our public chat. Um,
I can't update it live, but
okay,
we can put it in the shared notes if you want.
sounds good. Josiah, do you want to give everyone a rundown on how they can share their audio and video if they choose?
Sure. As soon as you join, you have the option to join us with a microphone or just listen in. If you listen in, you won't be able to obviously talk. But if you do want to, you can click I think the headphone icon, and it will ask you to rejoin the audio, and you can choose the microphone option. And then you'll be able to chat with us. If you want to share your webcam, there's a convenient webcam button on the bottom of your screen, and you'll be able to see your face.
I see Frank says the audio is cutting in and out. Genevieve, I have no audio. The audio cutting in and out may be the fact that we're trying to play some coffee shop music. That should end the issues there as soon as we end that, which I'm going to do now. There. So, Alicia and Natasha, the audio is good for you guys? Yeah? All right. So I'd like to take this. I am certainly not hosting this. All of us, the 160 of us, are hosting it. As we all know, as educators, conversation is what's going to has always gotten us through. Actually, coffee has always gotten us through, but conversation has been great as well. I'd like to introduce our co-hosts this morning. Natasha Vautour, my colleague, and my fellow pedagogue in all of the brilliance that has been going on over the last 3 months. And so Natasha is our programmatrice de projet and is an educator. And she's also handling the Francophone coffee and conversation. So if you would like to join those as well, the content will be very similar, mais c'est complètement en français. And those happen at 9:30 every morning, and we just had one with 40 or 30 users this morning. Also joining us is Alicia Collins. She is our creative catalyst and newest member to the Brilliant Labs team. Coincidentally, she joined the team at the same time as COVID started to happen. And so, Alicia, thank you very much for joining us. We've all co-constructed these experiences, and the construction of these experiences are directly related to the response that we feel educators have been experiencing over the last 3 months, and what we predict to the best of our abilities that we will continue to experience as we return, shall I say it, to a new normal. I think those have been overused, but anyway, thank you all for joining us. I see we're up to 187. I'm going to stop talking and do a couple of things in the background.
Good morning, everybody. If for talking conversations, if ever you want to go on our website, wherever you click to get into this meeting area, you'll see that we have created a few handouts for the week just to help conversation and to guide it along. There's a few different ones. There's one that is for the design thinking process, which is the process for making brilliant things, which is based on the Stanford
is not been without our obstacles. And that's one of the reasons why we enjoy the title of Coffee and Conversation. And it's a reflection of all of your practices as well. You know, our 242 users that are joining us right now. Those of us who drink coffee, you know, there's nothing quite as routine as the preparation of our coffee. You know, we all have our process of getting up in the morning, and we have designed it, refined it, iterated on it sometimes when we feel comfortable. And so all this week, we're going to try to find comfort in being very nimble. And Alicia and I presented a few weeks ago on what it means to be nimble, or what we've learned about being nimble throughout the last 3 months. But what if we were able to be nimble in something so ingrained in our cultural practices as having a cup of coffee in the morning? And so, even on the handouts, you can see that Natasha prepared a few notes of coffee and conversation, and some examples of how you may want to add some butter to your coffee in the morning, because that's apparently a thing that's becoming increasingly popular at coffee shops. You can do it in your own home and have gourmet coffee. So, if we think of our instructional practices and our visions that we have for our own classrooms, even though our classrooms have changed, the construct of them, what we were putting them, how we collaborate, and it may not be routine anymore, but we're going to very quickly fall into a routine that becomes comfortable for us. How can we inspire our own selves to be nimble enough in our instructional routine to iterate? And we've really tried to create some examples of that through our MakerFun and these challenges. And so we're curious to know. Sorry, I'm going to stop talking. Alicia, want to add?
No, I just wanted to add when you talk about these changes. So when this pandemic hit, one thing that suddenly people started realizing is that the virtual was the only way to communicate with the audience. But in the previous VL thing, we worked very differently. So we started thinking about how do we use the virtual world as a catalyst to bring students, parents, and teachers closer with the physical world. And that's what was the idea of the Maker Fun, as Natasha mentioned. It's engaging people in more hands on experiences and bringing them closer to what they see around and engage more deeply. So it was a little bit of screen to get them to work without the screens and try to see like something extraordinary in mundane things that they see around themselves.
So if any of you would like to share, no, I'm just going to say we'd really love to use your points as jumping off points to discuss. So, what about forgetting about the virtual learning, and how can we live within an instructional culture of remote learning or physical learning where we are less reliant on the screens to promote our creativity, or even the topic this morning of maker fun without screens? Do you have any thoughts, concerns, or what if moments, which is something else that we can talk about? And if you would like to share just audio, you can click on your microphone below, or please join us up in the header with sharing your webcam. And we'll take a few moments if you'd like to share some thoughts.
You can also use the public chat or shared notes to share your thoughts.
So I'm curious. Maybe I'll. Oh, Angie, did you?
Hi guys. I was just going to say that the most successful suggested learning plans I had this spring were ones that were maker challenges, really, and always based around children's literature as a springboard. And I got most engagement, most feedback from those challenges.
I'm curious what you think the value of using children's literature as springboards was that the mechanism to springboard from?
I think to promote literacy, uh, everyone sees different things in books. They bring their own interpretation, their own experiences. It's a safe place for, I think, for children to generate ideas, and also the cross curricular component as well.
That's great, Angie. Thanks for sharing. We're a huge fan of using children's literature, and we had a great opportunity to discuss with an author during the break, Katie House, who wrote "Be a Maker," and you can take a look at that on our YouTube channel. And it situates interdisciplinarity and teaching across subject areas, and really uh, teaching how to learn for the sake of learning. And children's book authors really have a great way of inspiring students to get out there and to learn. So maybe I'll ask my colleagues there, Alicia and Natasha, what's what's special about learning without screens? What have you noticed in during the pandemic, and what our students and teachers have shared uh, on our social medias as far as the creations that they have made and constructed without screens? What have you noticed to be interesting?
I like this whole nature of Maker Fun as open ended. Although we release them for like considering it's like a 1 hour activity, but it was interesting to see when people were sharing back that it was more extended inquiry. So it's just like we've opened this window where people were just like exploring, and we didn't expect that. And I also like the fact that people started appreciating the teachable moments. And as Angie was talking about this writing or literature, I think through these maker activities, there's a way to link it with other subjects. When I think of making, I think of it as interdisciplinary experience, often inquiry, where you don't see math as separate than making or literature. You see it as a cohesive system. So that was pretty impressive that people are appreciating that and looking into seeing things as more integrated. I appreciated the reason kids were making these activities, or the reasons they were engaged in these activities. So when we think of our design thinking process with the call to make, and can there be how can there be a reason for making, and what's making these maker fun activities authentic? And I liked what the lady had shared earlier, that coming from children's literature, that's where they get that call to make. Why? Oh, nobody can hear Josiah. I don't know if you see that. Are there people that can hear us?
If you've disconnected, just try reconnecting. It's possible you find that.
So yeah, what I was intrigued about with these maker funds was the reasons kids were making these activities, and again, it brings back to that literature. So when we do kids using the literature as a springboard, it also books get kids to think. Book gets kids to reflect on different ideas. So bringing it inside of your classroom and making an activity from it, that's where it gets us inspiring for kids to really make differently. And then we get to the process of making instead of just the end result of making, because the reflections are all different and the reasons for making something are all different. So that's what I like about the maker funds.
There's I've been reflecting quite a bit on our call to make and the authenticity of the learning experience during that call to make. And so, in looking at any one of how many, Natasha, the 80 Maker Fun challenges qui sont disponibles en anglais et français.
We had 8 a week.
It that it's insane. It's incredible, and our teachers on the team. I mean, each one of those activities was created and thought of to a level of it was incredible. But so you're called to make. So let's take the egg carton challenge. how can you create characters of a story with the egg cartons? And so you think about the makers who are involved in creating that experience, cutting up the egg carton and creating these little characters. Um, is that an authentic call to make? And so, we're putting these activities out there, and so there's a bit of contrivance in that, but that call to make just can be an entry point, an idea that's captured from any activity that they see out there, our own included. The direction and the journey that our young makers and the learning experiences and the sensory engagement, what they hear, what they smell, what they touch, hopefully not what they taste, but if of our latest maker activities, maker fun activities, were food, so I guess they can taste that. Um, they can take it in so many different directions. And of course, the subject area engagement and the learning opportunities are going to be of their own decision. And it's really authentic. Natasha, you spoke this morning in the French version about the egg carton. Do you want to share your reflection on that?
Yeah. Josiah, maybe we can put the YouTube live link. People are having a hard time with the sound.
Yeah, Josiah, I'll grab that for you there.
Uh, my reflection with the egg carton challenge was I love the challenge and how it is easy to make an egg carton character, but how can we bring the SDG reflections on that? What are the sustainable development goals that we can obtain or help kids reflect on while creating a little character in an egg carton? So what I loved about these Maker Fun challenges is I found that the SDGs made them authentic. So it made a reason for making where the kids felt they were making a difference. So how can we in class get kids to reflect more on why you're making this little character? So while you're making this little character, what's your story going to be? How are you going to write that story? How are you going to animate that story? So there's all that language arts aspect to it, but there's also the aspect of when you do create an egg carton, can you teach an SDG with it? Can you create something that the kids will learn SDG? How do you show equity while making these egg cartons characters? So there's also the fact that, like, I remember having the discussion with my daughter during the pandemic was, okay, well, it's easy for you to go and make an egg carton character out of the egg cartons we have in the fridge. But what if kids have egg cartons in their fridge? So how can they also reflect on that? What is quality education? Where is the equity? And how can I, who's living in the pandemic in a luxury, I always told her that how can I reflect on kids that are not? And what can I do to help? So with these small, simple egg carton characters, how can we create these reflections in class? So that's to me what made these Maker Fun powerful, because it also makes it that the kids, when they do that challenge, they also get okay. Um, I lost my kind of lost my train of thought. So they make that challenge. They do get to follow the SDGs, but then they get the feeling of knowing that who's backing up their ideas here about equity is the United Nations. So they feel more powerful. Like, every time kids work towards attaining some of these goals for the SDGs, or they do any small action, they do have a lot of people supporting them. And how can you feel so powerful as a kid with the United Nations supporting you in the back? That's what to me made them special.
I think what you explained, Natasha, really suggests MakerFun as this combination of playfulness but also purpose, and children or young people having autonomy and power to do something that matters to them and to people around them. And I guess that's what, like, the whole call to make resonates with me when I think about the process. I'm curious to hear, like, when people have tried, I see on the chat that you've tried, like, what was your experience like? What was something that you appreciated about the process? Some thoughts do you have? So you can unmute yourself at the bottom if you would like to share, or also use the public chat.
Maybe I'll go. I'm not sure if my audio is working or not.
It is.
I'm a new teacher, so at the beginning of the year, I heard John Spencer speak to New Brunswick teachers talking about the concept of asking his children at the end of the day, what did you make today? And being in music, I tried to make it kind of this mission to be as cross-curricular as possible, because I know that sometimes the arts can be a challenge for students. So giving them the options in a creative project to do more outside the box things. So maybe they're not a fan of songwriting, but maybe they can apply all of the knowledge they know to make a board game with all of that same information. So kind of having this diverse thought process on how to create these projects for students. That's kind of been a cool focus, and I had no idea about Brilliant Labs. I didn't know that you guys existed, and I think that if I had known that even pre-pandemic, I would have really benefited from having these smaller chunked things. So I'm learning a lot
thank you,
today,
Jamie.
but I just wanted to share.
It's John Spencer absolutely was inspirational, and we've used many of his resources because they are so playful. And if there is anything, and Wednesday is going to be a great chat about the permission. It's Wednesday, permission to play. Yeah. Our students, our youth, and it doesn't matter if our youth is in grade 11 or grade 12, or it's us. We have every permission to play, and during which we're learning and reflecting on the last 3 weeks of seeing posts of students cooking. They're making. There's absolutely no way that you can bake a batch of cookies without thinking about moments of learning. How is your recipe, your experience going to be affected if you add in just this little bit more of the leavening agent or a little bit less? Charlie just shared in the public chat something that was made me think. Which tools should we be looking at to get into the hands of our students? Are classic hammer and nails projects still advantageous in your classrooms, or should we be focusing on new technologies? Is there room for both? So that was something that I really was inspired to see over the last 3 months, and I'll be very interested to see how we cope with our return in September. Of course, at Brilliant Labs, we strongly believe.
I mean, I hate myself on there, but you know what I mean, like.
Oh.
Hi, Colleen. I think you're saying something.
Maybe Colleen now discovered the mute button, but Colleen, please join. Our makers, they were thought about. And so just like we need to be nimble in our coffee in the morning, we need to be nimble in how we think about the materials that we choose, or that our students will choose to use to make with. So Charlie, thank you for that comment. And we're always considering the impact that the materials in our spaces that our students can create will change.
Moving forward, I'm curious to hear if people have any ideas or suggestions about how to integrate MakerFun or something like these interdisciplinary, playful, hands-on activities into teaching, no matter what format of teaching people are exploring. But where do you see, how do you see this happening? If people have any ideas for that.
I always find that teachers, we tend to put ourselves in our students' shoes, and then we try to get our kids and create these projects where all of our kids will want to do this project, because I'll have a theme of hockey for him, I'll have bow and arrow, I'll have scouts, I'll have everything in there. And us as teachers, we kind of tend to get away from what we love to make. And so I always reflect back to my first maker project in my class was with the sewing machine. I got my kids to sew school mascots.
But okay, we were sewing school mascots because I was happy about this project because I love to sew. I know how to sew. If my machine breaks down, I can fix it. I was very comfortable with it. And so jumping in this project-based learning and these projects that were made for helping our community create these school mascots. And when the little kids came to register to school, they would get the school mascot. So, and then we'd write stories and publish. We really reflected on what the problematics were we wanted to solve. And I find a lot of time, we always, as teachers, feel like, okay, what do I need next? So now I got a 3D printer. What's my next thing I should get? And we tend to forget what we love to make and how we love to create. And a lot of times that's what I find makes it easier to do these interdisciplinary projects. Because when I do sewing, when I do that in my class, I know how to sew and I know I'm so passionate about it and I love it so much that for me it's easy to link my curriculum outcomes to it because I know it well. So us as teachers, we also have to bring our passions in the classroom. What do you love to make? Like there's a teacher who made flying flies for fly fishing. Well, I wouldn't know where to start. I don't like fish. I'm definitely not touching a fish. So that's like the whole aspect of what makes us as teachers us and what makes you special and what can the kids learn in your class and become passionate or learn of your passion and what can they learn from that. So if it comes from you and your heart, it'll be easier for you to make something and make a big project. So I always try to reflect with teachers to go find your passion and bring that in class.
And what's not new in education is that passion is contagious. And so I think about the impact that let's take fly fishing, and I see one of our teachers here, no stranger to Brilliant Labs, Ashley Hallahan. He was an avid fly tying fisherman. Sorry to put you on the spot, but thank you very much for joining us, Ashley. If we take that example and we demonstrate our passion, I don't know a curriculum document where fly tying is embedded or as an example activity. In fact, I hope one is never written because it is not going to capture the same passion that someone who is a passionate fly fisher. I don't even know what that's called. Tell me, Ashley. But someone who ties flies, and what can we, if we take a look at our very new and emergent structure of school. And here in New Brunswick, our minister spoke about it on Friday. And it's going to be a very new instructional experience. But if we are able to take a step back and find comfort in sharing a passion of what we have created, a tangible form of fly tying or a batch of muffins or for me...
Making. Somebody just asked a question. Coffee making.
Coffee making. Where has our coffee making ritual come from? And if we take a look even in our building, in our school, and we take a moment and we share about how we are iterating on that coffee making, what are the learning opportunities that have come from it? And so whether we find ourselves teaching in a bubble or a pod or any other new term of collecting people together in a socially acceptable and distant way, we can still share our ideas amongst bubbles and pods. And something that I've been really interested in seeing is this MakerFun with no screens. We're using those screens as an opportunity to share what we have made. We take pictures because we are proud of what we have created or what we have experienced. We share those on social media. That is a very contagious experience. And I hope that contagious experience is what continues to spread. And it's not lost on me how insane it is to talk about contagions in a moment of pandemic. But our own passions as educators can be very contagious and very inspirational for learning moments. So I hope that is something that continues to spread.
And go ahead, Alicia.
No, I was saying sometimes the passion can come from students too. So when you talk about it being creativity and passion being contagious, there are some instances where I'm sure you must have found yourself or will encounter the situation where you see your students being so involved, so interested in an idea, and you taking an interest because they are interested in and exploring something that you're not comfortable. So I guess the whole passions and vulnerabilities are aligned. When we are passionate about something, we are very excited, we go deeper. But also when we are vulnerable, when we don't know something, new knowledge can enter, and we get more curious and we navigate those things. So I guess it's like a process that can go back and forth. Sometimes you can inspire students, sometimes the students can inspire you.
And we think of something so simple as coffee that we have every day. Like we all have a different process for making our coffee. And by these coffee and conversations I did a lot of research on why coffee and how it's made differently around the world. Why do they put cheese in their coffee in Sweden? So there's like, why are all these traditions made? So there is a lot of math and science and health in the coffee aspect. If you love coffee, it's why coffee shops? So why did we start going to coffee shops? Why do you go to a certain coffee shop? Oh, are you a Starbucks or Tim's fan? What does that say about you? What does society perceive about these two different coffee shops? What's equity in coffee? There's so much that you can teach. There are endless possibilities. There are endless possibilities if we love our base subject. Again, brings back to that. If we love our base subject, we can see it and we can elaborate it more. We just have to give ourselves time to do it, and permission. Time and permission as a teacher to play around with that.
Something that I was just thinking about is our anecdotal comments that we can share with students on assessment. And I'd rather not use that form of assessment, but the feedback that we can give, and the passionate feedback. You know, our words are what is going to drive our students' creativity, and their words are what's going to drive our own creativity. And so at a time when, you know, we may find ourselves in conversations within our own schools about, you know, what will assessments look like? Well, maybe what will assessments feel like? What will they sound like? And let's find the structures that allow us to share the passionate thoughts and inquiry and decisions that our students make and that we make as teachers. And I do feel that there have been many opportunities presented to our profession during this pandemic that we have yet to uncover and discover. And many practices that are, you know, the theme this week is timeless teaching for uncertain times. There are pedagogues and researchers and philosophers who have long discussed about the advantages of interdisciplinarity and project and problem-based teaching. And there are going to be moments in which those fundamentals emerge as new discoveries, but they've just been waiting to be discovered by, I don't know, more of us, to been brought on board, to be embedded within our culture of teaching. And so that's something that I find very exciting.
Hello. I was just thinking about all the things you're saying, and I never actually use your MakerFun specific things, and I hope that I have an opportunity to try them in the future, and I'm sure I could bring them into my class. But one thing I've been focusing on is the screenless part, and I love to do maker challenges, but most of my maker challenges that I did during the 3 months were 3 weeks long. I would use screens for collaboration purposes, because one of the biggest challenges I found with MakerFun challenges at home is that one of my favorite parts of these types of challenges is that it promotes collaboration and it's problem solving with other students. And I know students can work at home with their families, but I use screens in that way to, you know, for example, I got them to make bird feeders at one point. And a lot of students were having trouble with squirrels. So like we collaborate online to figure out like, okay, how can we solve this issue? So I guess that's one of my things is collaboration. How can I incorporate collaboration at home?
And I think you have it there when you said online collaboration, because that was our only option. And it was, I like the idea that they were actually already online collaborating, because a lot of teachers had that difficulty that kids were not engaged in doing the challenges. So when you meet with the students, they meet with a purpose, they meet with a reason to help out and collaborate, which makes a collaboration or these virtual sessions more engaging.
Matthew, I was wondering, did you notice any difference when young people collaborate on hands-on long-term project, as you mentioned, versus like on a short class project that's not hands-on? Did you encounter any difference in those process?
So a difference between long-term hands-on and then short-term not so hands-on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I always find that, you know, a maker challenge, especially connected to some other learning goal, is just like the powerful vehicle to kind of get them learning in a meaningful way. So I had a lot of good feedback about students being engaged and from parents and students. I didn't do a whole lot of non-hands-on things in my science class at home to begin with, but I mean, there's so many differences. I guess I've been big on design projects or maker projects for a while, for all those reasons, for collaboration, for, you know, exploring the experimental or engineering design process. But I'll think more on that.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm not ending this, but in the silence here, I just want to remind our participants that this is just the first of 5 more sessions, one on Friday. If there are any administrators joining us now and you've yet to register, is not exclusively for, but it's designed more for school leaders, as we talk about, and it's certainly pertinent to our discussion. How do we scale creativity and innovation in any time, you know, whether it's before now or in September?
Yeah.
And all of these conversations are happening each morning and then in the afternoon at 1 o'clock. And you can take a look at our website to find all these listings if you're not registered for one of them. There's going to be a workshop in which we explore tools, not for the sake of bringing screens back into it, but tools that are really creative and collaborative. For instance, this afternoon, Lisa Scott, our colleague, is offering Scratch. Not how to use Scratch, but how can we use Scratch as a collaborative feature, where students share and promote their ideas and create sketches together.
And I wanted to also invite you for our Friday session, which is show and share. And I guess we're going to take a back seat and we are interested in learning from you. So I noticed in today's session, like, we have music teacher, we have science teacher, we have literature, and you have such amazing ideas. So we will send you a note. I mean, if you want to share something, it's going to be a Pecha Kucha style presentation where we hope the participants will share their ideas about projects that they've already done or something they want to try. And Natasha has already shared one of the reflection handout, and we would love to hear from you. So if after the session, when you get a chance, to look at that handout and reflect, we would be grateful if you can share that on Twitter and tag us, and that way we can learn about your reflections and what you're thinking about, and how was it for you. So I mentioned these links in the shared notes that you can look at.
What are we talking about tomorrow, colleagues?
Tomorrow is the process for making brilliant things. So the design thinking process in the classroom.
I love it. I love that first hexagon, and hopefully we dig into more of it. tomorrow of our fascination of these hexagonal tilings. But that first one, call to make. What is it that we finally, dust the potato? I'll speak for myself. Dust the potato chips off of our chest as we're thinking about this idea, at the end of the day, and we're like, all right, tomorrow I am going to make this. And actually, I have a maker story that I can share this weekend. I took a break from some brilliant things, and there was a shed that we added to our. Anyway, long story, but it was a moment of, okay, I think I can do this. How do I grab the raw materials that I believe that I need? And, so how can we encourage that moment, that instantaneous moment of which our students, it's not becoming a maker from a non-maker, but that call that they receive, whether physical or non-physical, that they get. I love it. Can't wait for tomorrow. Oh, just a comment there. I was worried how to teach culinary tech online. It turned out to be easy doing video assignments. That's amazing.
I like that one. And we had a challenge linked to cooking, We had a Cooking for Change week. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of different MakerFun activities, like how can you get kids to create their own cookbooks and use technologies to create your own cookbook, and how can you link it to cultures and families. And there was a video I made with my daughter. I like the COVID cooking. And en Acadie, we eat des pâtes de serre. So she had made that with my mom and learned how to make that dessert recipe, which to us is a dessert. But then my mom explained to her, like, well, when she was young, she used to eat that for supper because they were so poor, and that those were ingredients they had in the fridge, and that's where that recipe came from, and even like where the title and the name of it. So there's so much we can do. And even thinking of our carbon footprint linked to these recipes. What was the difference between my mom's carbon footprint when she was young making that recipe and my daughter now making it here in New Brunswick? So there was a lot of reflections that we can have with these video and cooking. It's awesome.
Wow, that's great. It fits right into our design thinking. I mean, it feels very prescriptive when we follow a recipe. And it's fine, to follow a recipe, but as soon as we're comfortable with that recipe, it's we change it to suit our own experience, to create our own experience, and so why is it that we're changing it? Is it rooted in empathy, or is it this willingness to be creative?
Yeah, and sometimes it's not just about you're changing from the reference, but also sometimes the context, where, how, and what you're doing can also add that diverse element.
Excellent. So just a couple of reminders here. So we've been recording for 52 minutes, and we'll stick around. And also this recording will be available, and we'll distribute the links. We'll stick around if you have any questions that you would like to follow up with. And if you had any issues with audio or connection, each of these Coffee and Conversations will be available via a YouTube link as well, and we're working on how we're going to distribute that information to you. Tomorrow, if you join, there will be in this Brilliant Labs Meet window, we'll have the link to the YouTube. And thank you very much for those of you who joined us over on the YouTube stream. There are still 19 of you there, but we welcome you to collaborate here with us. Turn on your webcam, turn on your microphone, and thank you to all of you who did ask some questions and drive this conversation. So if you'd like to join in the conversation in the last few minutes here, we'll stay on.
And also, if there's a few people that would like to turn on their cameras just to do a kind of a selfie with our screens here to help us with Brilliant Labs, because we had a lot of participants and it was quite exciting. So if we could get like 10 people to turn on their cameras for a picture, it'd be nice. Oh, yay, Mary.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Here comes Mary. Yeah, we're not really sure. Like, there's 163 users on right now. We're not really sure what happens when 20 people turn on their webcams.
want to thank you for your flexibility. This tool is new, and thanks for just staying with us despite of some of the challenges.
Many thanks to Josiah for keeping up with things on the backgrounds. Oh, perfect. Look at all these webcams coming on. Hello, Caleb.
Hi.
Eden, Jen, Melanie. It's great to see so many familiar names. Hopefully, are the webcams loading for you guys?
No, not all. They're starting to load.
They're starting.
I see Kendra. Oh.
Kendra, you're joining from Miramichi Valley? Yeah? Or James M. Hill?
Miramichi Rural.
Rural, okay. Mary, you're joining from Wolfville? Okay, that's interesting. So the webcams are still circling.
I wonder if we change the setting to low quality, it might work better.
Okay, let me try.
You can change your camera to low quality?
Yeah, if you turn it off and turn it on again, you can change the setting. That's what I did just now.
Okay.
And it's still loading, I guess.
Okay, well, we're taking some screenshots for evidence, so maybe we can get the webcam feature figured out for tomorrow. Fern Tucci. Thanks for joining. Mary, thanks for keeping up with the chat. Christine Michaud, all the MakerFuns are available on our website. brilliantlabs.ca and /MakerFun will take you directly there. All the PDFs are available. And we're continuing to publish new MakerFuns. And the best way to get the most up-to-date versions, or the live ones, are by following us on Twitter.
Yeah, and all these links you'll find in the shared notes to Twitter, to the MakerFun, if you want to take a look there.
Error in webcam sharing. Yeah, sometimes that happens when you have another instance of your webcam being shared. So if you're running Microsoft Teams in another browser or in another page. Thanks for joining, Mr. McTavish. Oh, he's offline. I'm thanking all these people, and they're offline now.
Do you want to keep the recording on, or should we turn it off for now?
Okay.
You can turn it off, probably, Jacob.
Yeah.
Oh, there we see Jen now. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Where are you, Jen? You're in Fredericton, eh?
St. John.
St. John. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I have questions, and hopefully. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Hi, Eden. The webcams are working. Hi, Christina.
Ooh, we can have a couple more.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what I did was, mine wasn't working, the webcam. I just refreshed the page, and then it started working.
Okay.
For the fun of it, tomorrow we should have a poll. Set up a poll for what browser you're using. See if we can link that to any errors.
Yeah, that was
So I
good
did
information.
work on low quality, but it came back under medium quality again.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we did take a selfie there. Oh, there's Mr. Keys, Heather. Oh, and we see a young maker in Heather's screen there. Hello. And for those of you who are still listening, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We love discussing what you were thinking with regards to maker-based education and how we can continue to allow our young makers to make when they come back to us in September. Brilliant Labs is also busy with our summer camp planning. And so be sure to check out our social medias for all kinds of virtual and hopefully physical interactions as well.
So we'll see you tomorrow for the ones who wants to join us again. If there's no questions.
Yeah, and then there's a French session too, right? Some people were asking in the chat.
At 9:30 in the morning, it's in the sessions are in French.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. It's interesting to scroll through the users, and there are many with no icon at all. And so
Wait, when you say no icon, does it mean like the circle, the white dot?
Sorry, the white circle, yeah.
Yeah, initially I thought that's maybe because people are listening, but I'm not so sure. I think I mentioned it before. Or it happens also when you leave the audio?
Yeah, that's right. So if they still have the window open, but they haven't joined in either with audio or video.
Oh, and also, apparently, Jacob, can you stop streaming on YouTube Live? I know we're not recording this session. I just got a message that we're still on YouTube Live.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone. There were still 10 viewers.